Good morning, everybody. College football best bets and picks week number 8 already, powered by the Sharp app. I'm Mark Drumheller. I'm here with Dave Gleckner. And Dave, chaos continues in the college football landscape. It all started with Alabama being upset in Rocky Top. Tennessee now on the map. Hendon Hooker getting talked about for Heisman. Lots of volatility. You know, it was a little hectic last year around this time, and then things kind of settled down as the year went on, and we ended up kind of with the same teams in the playoffs, besides, Cincinnati or Michigan, I should say. But, what was your take on just last week in general? Alabama goes down. People are wondering if they can, find their way back into the playoffs, or if this team is a little bit snake bitten.
Yeah, it was. I think it was the first week where I could say, all right, some of the stats that we've been building, maybe I got to throw them out a little bit. And I start with the Michigan-Penn State game. Penn State allowed under 400 yards in 5 games and then let up 419 on the ground to Michigan in one game.
Yeah, punished
right?
in the big house.
And that's linebacker U, right? I think that's what we call it, or they call it. They call it. Let me say it. Punished, right? And so throw out anything they saw. Alabama, very similar. We knew they had some holes a little bit defensively. I mean, the pass rush should be there, but it wasn't as much as it, we expected it to be. And they let up, 52, was it?
Yeah, 52. They get cooked, man. That secondary continues to get cooked.
Yeah. So we're starting to just see these little things start to snake bite these teams. And if we're going to have the Tennessees and others up there, I think it's awesome for college football. Don't get me wrong, but it means there's a lot of volatility. We also saw Georgia almost get bit, right? And we were like, no, that's not – well, I don't know now, because we almost saw Alabama get bit a few times, and we're like, no, Alabama's going to be fine. But maybe that's real. Maybe they are susceptible. So that's really where my mind's at now, that what we saw, we got to start not using past data and really use a little bit more eye test now.
Yeah, it's really significant. Like, especially if you look at, in that Penn State Michigan game, like just how Michigan was able to just kind of like run right through them. And, Penn State, another test nail against Minnesota. I know a lot of Penn State money's coming in today. I wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole coming off that kind of beating, man. That's a little bit deflating, not saying I would, run obviously Minnesota, some questions at the quarterback position, but just, some of these conferences is kind of like the point I was getting at, are turning out to be a lot of fun, man. Like Michigan, like maybe Michigan, Ohio State is going to be a little bit of a bigger game than we thought it'd be, right? Going in. You look at the Big 12, you look at the Pac-12, right? We have a massive game in the Pac-12 today. You look at the Big 12, the things that teams like Illinois is doing. You know what I mean? Like in the Big 10, like there's just so many good storylines, I feel like, this year. And we always want new blood, and we always want, new people in the playoffs, but we never seem to get there. And I'm wondering if this is the year that we do it. I mean, there's still a path for Bama, but, they're going to have to win out.
I totally agree. And is there a situation, and someone threw this at me, Tennessee loses to Georgia, right? Georgia goes to SEC title game. And now those two play, Georgia and Bama. And Bama comes out on top. Where do you put Tennessee? They don't get to SEC championship, but they beat Alabama.
Yeah, they're out.
Yeah, you got to get there?
Yeah, they're out. Yeah, they have to win. They have to
get there. I think they just have
they have to at least get to the SEC championship to get there. Like, if they lose to Georgia and they don't end up in the SEC championship, like they're done. I mean, listen, is it possible if, there's going to be too many good teams in other conferences. Like, I don't think they're going to be able to get all these SEC teams in there, dude, to be honest. I know they want to, but I don't think if you don't win at least make it to the conference championship game, like, I don't think you're getting in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't. Like, I think they have to beat Georgia, like, if they really want to be, like, on the map. And, it's funny because Bama almost has, like, the easiest path now.
That's what I was getting at.
They lost.
Yeah, they're still getting in, right?
Like, they're getting in. Yeah. I mean, unless they lose to Georgia. Like, that's the thing. Like, I think what that game against Tennessee showed me was that, the gap between these teams is a little bit closer than we thought, right? Like, I honestly was like, I just felt like this was the year coming in that Bama was going to be significantly better than Georgia. You know what I mean? And we haven't seen that. Like I said, the secondary is a problem. They get cooked all the time. they got cooked against Texas before overs went out. They continue. I mean, Haynes King moved the ball on them. Like, I don't, there's problems there. So it'll be interesting to see how they respond against Ole Miss. That's definitely a game I want to talk about. But so many excited games in the college football landscape. And the playoffs is real. I mean, like, listen, Clemson, big game today against Syracuse, but they have a very clear path. It looks like they're going to be able to win out and kind of, find their way into the playoffs. And of course, what happens in the Big 12 and the Pac 12 is going to be significant in that conversation, because if these teams cannibalize each other, then, it's just going to make it easier for these other, big programs, in the big conferences. So, they really, like, the Big 12 and the Pac 12, like, those guys got to make sure, like, if they're going to get in, they probably have to, be pretty clean throughout the season.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you got a lot of huge games coming up. Texas looks like they have a clean path, but they haven't played the TCUs yet, or now today, OK State. So there's a lot still on the line. I'm with you.
Yeah, definitely getting some challenges. So let's get into it. We got a couple people checking in. Our guy Shady, love him. Chow line's open. You know it, brother. Big day today in the UFC as well. I know my man Eric's going to be tuning in. Early start, over there in on Fight Island. So can't wait. Fights, I mean, probably starting right now, the prelims in a little bit, if not. So can't wait for that. John Trey, appreciate you checking in, my man. Give us your best bets, dude. Drop us what you like. Going to be a fun day today for sure. So much going on, college football. And again, with the UFC card in the middle of the day, it's just going to be chaos. But let's get into these games, Dave. I want to kick things off. I want to start off with Alabama. We talked about them a little bit. Laying a big number, despite the loss, laying a big number here against Mississippi State. Opened at 21.5, 62 on the total, right? Seeing a little money pushing that total down, and a little money, getting Alabama back to that 21, which I think, it's a big number considering the struggles I think that they've had on defense and against a tough Mississippi State team. But, the challenge is here is that, the way historically Mississippi State has not played Alabama well, and Alabama's been able to kind of keep Mike Leach's like quick strike offense like in front of them, and they have the athletic people on defense at the linebacker position and in the secondary to where they can kind of shut that down. So Alabama usually blows this team out, and that's why I took them here. Like, I think that if you listen to Saban during the week, obviously he's furious. I think they got a overall deal with the pass interference call.
Yeah,
I don't know how you make that call against Tennessee, but listen, it's for the good of the people. People are happy that Tennessee got there, but it kind of got, all in all, the call I think was trash, right? You can't make that call there, and plus it was a bad call. But the other part about it too is I think in the game as a whole, I think Tennessee was the better team. So, I'm not mad about the result, but, Alabama kind of has to lick their wounds here, travel against Mississippi State. I think this is a very favorable opponent for them. And I think if they can keep, Mississippi State under control here, I think they'll run the ball. They'll be able to run it right down their throats, get the offense moving. I mean, I say this with a lot of caution, Dave, because, I want to bounce this one off of you. Every week, I feel like I come on here and I'm like, this is going to be the statement game for Saban. This is where they're going to get their act together and they're going to win with margin. And it doesn't seem to happen. And I think it's going to happen here. I did bet Alabama. I think that this is just one of those situational spots of where, off the loss, I think that they're going to come in here and dominate. But I feel like I've been saying it all year and it hasn't really come to fruition yet.
Yeah, I'm out on Alabama. I'll just tell you that right now. Man, listen, ride with them. I can't give you what I can say. I can break down what I was looking at coming into this game. Read something that said Mississippi State hasn't scored a touchdown in Tuscaloosa since 2014. So we're going on like 8 years. And part of that is Leach. He's been part of that, stat is what I'm talking about. So they've obviously had trouble. But they have an 18th year starter in Will Rogers, and they have, an offense that has been able to move the ball versus many teams this year. And we've seen Alabama just not being able to play that defense that we're used to. So it's a big number. They got to wake up. How does this team respond? I want to watch it a week, but I'm not against you. I just don't know anymore with Alabama.
Yeah.
I think – if I was going to have to play something, I'd lean towards the points. But, one of those games are going to wake up. I hope you're on the right side.
Yeah, you can't bet Mississippi State here. Like I feel like, in this spot, and that was more of it. It's just like I just feel like this is an advantageous matchup. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen here. Alabama off the loss, I think it's a good spot. I like Bama here laying the points, but I recognize that like I feel like I've been saying week in and week out, like, hey, this is where they're really going to kick it in the high gear. And I just wonder if this Alabama team has the high gear. When we talked earlier about, these teams at the top being a little bit closer than we thought, this was supposed to be Saban's best team,
Yep.
ever. Like he talked about, hey, from a talent perspective, this is one of his most talented teams ever. And they just haven't really lived up to that expectation. Will Anderson talked about how they were a little bit tight going into last week's game, which is, kind of
Wow.
strange coming from a
Yeah.
program like that. Yeah. So, they get to lick their wounds against an opponent that they should beat up, but Mississippi State, pretty talented team. So, I can understand a concern here, but I like Bama. I laid the points with once I got it to 21, I thought it would only go one direction. So I thought I'd get a little line value there as well. And I think it's good situational spot, but again, a little concerned because I feel like almost Linus waiting for the great pumpkin with this Alabama team. Like I'm sitting here, like I know it's coming. I know they're going to kick it in the high gear, and we're going to have to see if they can. But let's move on to one of your best bets, Dave. I think you're targeting the Ole Miss LSU game. I got to play on the under in this matchup, so
I
I'm
like the under.
interested to see where you're leaning.
Yeah, I like the under. Listen, I'm a better that sees kind of things that stand out. And when you
Mm-hmm.
take an unranked team and have them as a favorite versus a top 10 team, that stands out, right? So the first thing you think is the line's telling me something. It's got to be LSU. But then you dig into it a little more and you look at the stats since 2004, 13 occasions of this. The favorite is 3-10 ATS. So
Wow.
I start to try and understand why that happens. And obviously,
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to get a lot of LSU money in today because the typical this line's tell me something. But in the end, I feel like Ole Miss is the play. And I'll give a few reasons. Ole Miss has been a little bit offbeat lately. I mean, they've had to struggle some games with Vandy, and it's taken some time. They've only beat one really good quality opponent in Kentucky, and that took a 4 turnover, a couple missed field goal, extra point games. But their running game's still fantastic. It's still one of the tops in the league. Jackson Dart, a little bit underwhelming in the pass game, but he ran for over 100 yards last week. He's another addition to that game with Judkins and Evans in the backfield. And I think in the end, Brian Kelly, he gets away with one last week in Florida, 45-35. His only 2 losses, Florida State and Tennessee, so pretty quality. But this is big time SEC football. It's a big time step up in competition. They've been decent against the run, but I think they're 50th nationally in run defense success rate, but they're going against a top 10 rush offense. And I just think Lane is going to use this line as motivation here. And I think he's ready to rock. He'll wear the suit. He'll do something. He'll have golf balls thrown at him, whatever it takes. I think Ole Miss comes out on top. They needed this kind of wake up because they've been kind of, running through mud for a little bit here. And I think they cover the number today in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, I think they can run right through them. And I think when you look at, a team, if you're going to take a dog on the road, right, a short dog, you want them to be able to kind of play defense and you want them to be able to run the football because that's kind of how you take the crowd out of it, right, with those things. So, yeah, I like it. I mean, Ole Miss, a lot to prove because, you're starting to hear the whispers now of like, well, was Ole Miss really legit? Like metrics, they look great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But are they really legit? And I think we're going to find out a lot today because I don't think this LSU team is that strong. Like the win over Florida doesn't tell me nothing, right?
No.
45 points against Florida. Florida might be one of the worst defenses in the country, like in the entire country. Like I'm telling you,
Mhm.
like they might be bottom 10. Like, their defense is pretty crappy. For lack of a better word. But so I think it's a big prove it game for Ole Miss. I like it that you're on that side. I'm on the under, so I hope they get that running game going. I think, Daniels will be running for his life again. That's kind of what they do. Ole Miss gets after the quarterback and Daniels isn't the type of guy that's going to kind of like sit in the pocket and kind of like feel the pressure. If he feels the pressure and he's got a chance to run, he's going to run. So I think we're going to see a lot of running, a lot of running clock. Hopefully this one stays under. I think I got like 68.5 or something around that area. So the my guy Kent hit me up with that one earlier in the week, and I was like, all right, I'm going to pounce and play it. But I like it. So Ole Miss, LSU, SEC action, 2 big games. But let's pivot now to the Big 12. We talked a little bit about the Big 12, Dave, and I was talking to you a little bit offline about this matchup. Big question mark here with Spencer Sanders. Don't think they've announced anything yet. Obviously, the shoulder's a problem, right? We saw it last week against TCU. Looked like 2 different players in the first and second half, right? Once that juice wears off, right, that shot, a little bit different Spencer Sanders when he was playing through pain in the second half. I think they only had 6 second half points before the overtime started, if I remember. But so this is a game here. We got Texas -6, Oklahoma State money coming in. So we saw this spread a lot lower. The news started coming through that Sanders might not play at all. It shoots up, got as high as set 6.5. Now we're seeing it kind of start to trickle back down to Oklahoma State as people are thinking, I haven't heard he's out yet. He's probably going to play. My personal opinion is I don't care because I know he's not 100%. So, whether it's Gunner or whether it's Sanders, it doesn't matter. It's a downgrade at the quarterback position because I saw the second half of TCU, and that guy not good playing in pain. Another thing is we're going to have 20 to 30 mile per hour winds in this game, right? So you got a bad shoulder. You're not going to be whipping the ball down the field. Now, that's not how they play offense anyway. They're more a short passing game, yards after the catch. But I laid the points here with Texas, Dave. I like Texas in this spot. I think Bijan Robinson runs all over this defense. Cowboys let up 224 yards on the ground last week to TCU. And oh, by the way, that's the best part of their defense. The secondary is horrendous, right? No, outside of the top 90 in pass defense. So, that secondary can get torched. And, unlike Sanders, Ewers has a hose. I'm not saying he's going to throw the ball 40 yards on the dot and 30 mile per hour winds because we know that's not going to happen. But he's going to be less. The winds are going to hurt him a lot more because he has a big, strong arm. But again, I don't even think he's going to have to use it that much. I think Bijan Robinson is going to run all over this Cowboys defense. And I think that's what's going to happen. So they get them behind the sticks. They get them behind on the scoreboard. Oklahoma State really doesn't have a way to get back into this game. You can see the win factor on the total, right? We see that opened at 65, now down to, 58.5. So people are expecting a low-scoring game. I think Texas rolls here. I know it's a little scary because, they look bad at Texas Tech. They're on the road. It's Sark. But I think that this is a perfect matchup for them. I think they have the weapons to really expose this Cowboys defense.
Yeah, listen, I look at it similar to you, but I think Ewers is going to have a huge day in the passing game because of the stuff that you said about the Cowboys defense. They're still good with, with havoc. They still create a little bit. Like last year, they were good everywhere, but one of the things they create a lot of pass pressure, and they still create that. But if you don't get home, I mean, it's out and it's gone. And I think Worthy's going to have a big day. I think Ewers is going to have a big day. I think he's going to react off that, actually run the ball well. Bijan will have his good day. Does he get 200? Probably not, but he's going to be good enough to really open up that pass game. If Sanders plays, I feel like OK State can hang around a little bit. But the problem, like you said, is you can shoot him up, right? But by that time, there's no more needles coming. And I don't know if that wears off. And I don't know if we're going to see, a fade. And listen, Sanders is turnover prone. I don't love him even when he's healthy. And I think he could throw this game away. If he was healthy, this game's 2 or 3, right? It opened at 1. But with the unknown and uncertainty and probably the 50% if he plays, I like Texas as well.
Yeah. I took Texas. I just think that this is the spot, man. Like, I think that it's, and I didn't again, I was on TCU, I did not get the cover last week. They were able to get the win, but I just felt like this Oklahoma State defense is not it. So let's continue to move on. John checking in. 51% difference on the over on the handles on LSU. He likes it too. Perfect. Let's ride. And our guy Eric checking in. Rose's sub first fight plus 525. Did that go off yet? I'm on Rosa money line minus 255, and I have Rosa tied up in a parlay. So hopefully she does get the win. Hosa. But you gotta pronounce it with the H. But listen, let's move on, Dave. Best bet. I know you got another one fired up. Let's rock and roll. Where are we going? Are we going to Holy Toledo?
Yeah, let's go with the Rockets, man. So,
All right, let's go.
another
Toledo.
yeah, holy Toledo. Another game like this one kind of perplexes me. A little similar to what we talked about with the LSU Ole Miss game earlier. You got a Toledo team at 5-2 going to Buffalo, favored by 7. Buffalo, pretty good story, 3-0 in the MAC, and also 5-1-1 ATS this year. Played a lot of good, tough games. And if you guys remember, this is where Kansas's leader now came from. So he built a good program. Leopold Buffalo really looking strong. And when you look at the handles, I looked at it earlier this morning. 75% of the money on, or 75% of the bets on Buffalo, 83% of the money on Buffalo. And that's the reason I'm going Toledo. I think the Rockets, to me, and the Sharps, John, you mentioned it, are on Buffalo as well. There's so much money and line movement. I mean, and not much line movement on Buffalo. I mean, it's moved maybe a half a point. That it feels like Vegas isn't scared. And when Vegas isn't scared, I ain't scared either. Now, these teams look to be pretty even on a lot of points in the metrics. Toledo does a good job of moving the ball, but they're also pretty good at ending drives successfully. They're 12th in the nation at that, which is huge when you're looking to cover a number like 7, right? You're getting TDs instead of field goals. They have a very nice quarterback in DeQuan Finn, who likes to also run the ball, leads the team in rushing. So, they're dual threat. They pass well. They run well, but running is more comes from that quarterback position. Where in Buffalo, they're still creating havoc. They're good getting up there, but they do let up a lot on the back end. They're 86 in pass success rate. So I like Toledo. They played a decent pace, 40th nationally in plays per second. And I think Toledo, 5-2 overall, 4-3 against the spread, is just not getting the respect in this game. SP Plus has them at about an 11-point favorite. Go with being on the road, make that 9, and I'm only getting 7 here. So I'm leaning towards the SP Plus model more than the Vegas model, or should I say the Vegas money. And I'll take the Toledo Rockets, and I'll be on island by myself, like I will be tomorrow when I'm taking the Jacksonville Jaguars.
My man. Listen, so what's that? 7 did you get with Toledo?
7.
Is that the
I
number?
got 7.
7?
Yeah.
Perfect. Absolutely love it. Yeah, that Jaguars Giants line is a hot topic of
It
conversation.
smells.
I love Doug Peterson, but
Yeah.
after that game against Houston, they gotta prove it a little bit more with me. But the Giants are frauds too. I mean, the Giants, I don't love the Giants, but let's stick with let's stick with the college football slate here, Dave. My favorite game today, we're going to talk about right now.
Okay.
Pac-12, baby, UCLA +7 at Oregon. 71 is the total. This one opened at 6. We're seeing that duck money come in. Total. I opened at 70.5. Always tough. I think that, historically, I want to say it's around 35%. The totals only go over when they're in the 70s. So it's usually kind of but I think this one has a shot of going over. I think we're going to see a ton of points here. I'm on UCLA, man. I get it, Oregon at home. I really do. But I just feel like UCLA is much tougher up front at the line of scrimmage. And I think that they're going to be able to have their way. I think they're going to be able to run the ball with Charbonnet. Oregon's offense, extremely efficient. So it's going to be a lot of fun. They're going to score points. But I think DTR and UCLA's offense is going to score a lot more points. The biggest weakness with this Oregon team is the secondary. Absolutely brutal. And I think that opens it up. I think when you let the UCLA offense, if they can run the ball, if they can be physical with you, and then they can go downfield and make big plays, I think you're going to see them have a lot of success. We saw Oregon, now different. They were on the road when they played Washington State, but we saw what Cam Ward was able to do, as a mobile quarterback against this defense, and just kind of getting away from the pass rush and being able to make a ton of plays downfield. He didn't have a ton of rushing yards, didn't need to. It was more about, eluding defenders in the pocket and hitting big splash plays down the field. So I think we're going to see a ton of that from UCLA. UCLA, a team 7-1 against the spread on the road in their last 8 road games, right? This is a place Chip Kelly's familiar with. Not that should be the entire handicap, but it's not they're going into uncharted territory here. They've done well at Oregon in the past. So I think, they bring their A game, and I think this is a team that the market continues to undervalue. I like Oregon, but I just think that secondary is going to get exposed today. And I think if I can get touchdown with UCLA, I mean, this is probably going to be, a 47-44, game, and I'll take the touchdown. I'll take the points with the Bruins on the road. I'm more comfortable with the quarterback with DTR in this situation, even though Bo Nix is at home, historically plays well at home. There are just some things like that are going to make a difference in this game. Like, some of the things that really bother me with Oregon is, how they tighten up in the red zone. Like field goals aren't going to cut it against UCLA today. So I like the Bruins here. I want to get your thoughts, Dave. This is going to be if I could only watch one game, it would be this one.
Yeah. Last night I did a college DFS show, and the highest salaried quarterback on the slate today is Bo Nix. And my mind blows. Like, I'm like, this guy,
Yeah.
You just can't imagine, he's been rushing touchdowns in from short range, which has increased some of his point production. That's just nothing that's sustainable. And then I see the spread this high, and I'm like, where am I? Because again, I'll go out on that island on my own. If I saw these two teams play on an even field, I got UCLA, and I'm favoring them. I'm favoring them by 3 or 4 on a neutral field. And now I'm on a 10, 11-point swing on the other side. I know Oregon is a tough place to play. I know Chip Kelly is going back to his roots. And I know he's 0-5 against top 10 teams losing by an average of 23 points while at UCLA. I get all that. Crumble it up, throw it away, because this
team's different, man.
Kelly. Yes, they proved that versus Washington and Utah, right? They're different.
Yep.
They're different. Now they can play with pace, and they can play with, shall I say it, toughness. I just feel like they've got a little grit and toughness behind him. He's not going to go far off his script. He's going to pound that ball, and then when you bring him up, he's going to go over top to Bobo. And I just think there's too much value on the Bruins side. I hope I'm just not seeing this game, with rose-colored glasses, but I like the Bruins as well. I think it could be an outright. I have that little faith.
I do too, but I think at this number, there's no reason to go there. I agree with you. I wouldn't be surprised if UCLA wins this game, goes in there and wins this game. But I think getting to 7 is so valuable here. You almost have to bet the Bruins. I think the difference is going to be the secondaries. We saw, going into the year, I had questions about UCLA's secondary. They got a lot of young guys back there, and I'm like, in the Utah game, I liked UCLA, but I said, hey, you know what? I'm a little bit worried about the secondary. I want to see how they step up. And they made plays. They got interceptions. They make plays. So I think that's really the difference. If this is going to be a shootout, give me the secondary that's going to make plays, get interceptions, get turnovers. And again, in the red zone, I trust UCLA a lot more than I trust Oregon. Oregon really tightens up in the red zone. And I think that's going to be a big problem in a game like this, where, they're just going to have to score touchdowns. This game's going to be played in the 40s, I feel like. So I like UCLA here. I think they're valuable with the 7. So, but this is going to be fun. It's going to tell us a lot about the Pac-12 going forward.
Yeah, I agree so much. And I can't wait. That, you're right. If there's one I can watch today, I think it's that one. I can't, because there's just so much on the line in this game. And there's just so much that we think we see that we'll know after today.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. 100%. So listen, we got one more in the holster, right, Dave? You got one more for the people?
I do. And
or now are we?
Yes.
All right, you got one more?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
I failed last week. It's been a while since I had a bad week. And, ECU had that game late and let it go against Memphis. And then we get into the goofy, stupid overtime rules, and you have to go for 2, and we can't even cover the 6, even though they end up winning. So I was torn. I'm going back to one of those teams, right? Am I going back to ECU? I kind of like them today, +5 against UCF. Covered the last 3 against UCF 3-0 ATS. But I can't trust Ehlers. I don't know what it is right now, so I'm throwing that one out. And I'm going to Tulane, baby. And
there you go, the Wave
Tigers once again. Tulane ranked for the first time since 1998. Believe that? Yes, I was born in 98, and no, I don't remember that. So 24 years later, here we are. The Wave are back in the top 25 at a 6-1 mark. They've beaten a quality squad in Kansas State earlier this season. They're very solid all around. And the one that pops to me is just the fact that Memphis finds ways to lose games. They were up 13 to Houston with about 2 or 3 minutes left, found a way to lose. Even last week, they were up early, I think 17-0 against ECU, found a way to lose. Lost in the 4 overtimes, like I said. And what concerns me is they're 101st in scoring defense. I think they're way back there in the 100th range in pass success rate defense. one thing Tulane does well is they play defense well and they pass the ball well. Two things that match up very good for us against this Memphis team. Going to be a lot of energy down in the Bayou. I like those Tulane Green Wave to work the Memphis Tigers. Memphis on a 2-game losing streak. They're fading quick. Tulane rising, ride the wave.
I love it. What number did you get on that one?
I got it 7.
7? Perfect. So little Tulane Toledo action today, Dave. I can't lie. I kind of like
going
it.
off the charts a little bit. Last week was not right. I'm done with.
Well, you know what? If we won every week, they wouldn't take our money. That's that's how this sports betting thing goes.
Shut us down.
We're going to have down weeks. Everyone has down weeks. It's no big deal. We just keep firing. But listen, guys, we appreciate everybody checking in. That is going to do it for us. Lots of good stuff. So again, Alabama -21. Texas -6, UCLA +7. Dave's got what? Ole Miss, what's that? 2?
Plus
what's
1.5,
on that
plus
one?
2.
+1.5. And then we got +7 on Toledo and Tulane. So guys,
-7.
let's have it today. Oh, -7. I apologize.
Yeah.
So listen, guys, let's have it day. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We will be back next Saturday, regular time, 10 a.m. So listen, download the Sharp app, hop into Discord. Tons of action going on in there. Our AI prediction model has predictions on every game. You can see that. You can get the pro handicappers, perspective on each game. So hop in there, get in the NCAA football channel. Let's sweat out these games and let's win some money. So thanks for joining us. I'm Mark Drumheller. This is Dave Gleckner. We'll see you guys next week.